50 Cent has been working on this documentary for almost 2 years. The footage he has is insane. The people he got speaking about Diddy is ridiculous.
No Diddy party. Are you watching the documentary on Netflix?
I don't watch it.
Hey, bro.
How crazy is
Yo,
it?
he's horrible.
Bro, he allegedly Pac and Biggie.
Bro, both of them.
And I believe it.
Both of them.
Bro, it's crazy.
Allegedly. Horrible.
But no one knew all this shit until the documentary came out.
It seems
I'm not
like
gonna lie, 50 Cent is cooking, bro. My opinion,
Is
he's cooking.
that his doc?
Yeah, he produced it. He produced it, I swear.
That was the one he was gonna call Diddy Do It?
Yeah.
But it's called,
Bro, I'm not even joking, bro. Like, you gotta watch it.
I got
Mysterious Circumstances Involving the Deaths of Both Tupac and Biggie.
And it makes sense, because you know why? Think about it, like, Biggie and Pac were really good friends, bro. Really good friends.
Also so sad.
Diddy didn't fuck with Tupac, because Pac didn't fuck with him.
They drove a wedge between them.
Yup.
And then the one day Biggie was supposed to fly to the UK for a press tour or like Europe or some shit, and Diddy was like, nah, we're not.
This, right here, is the kind of story that makes Hollywood start sweating like it just got caught cheating on a lie detector test. Because when 50 Cent decides to unleash something, it's never just tea. It's a full-blown hurricane, tearing through the industry's most carefully guarded secrets. And now, the internet is losing its mind over what people are calling Part 3, the one they swore would never see daylight. Let's be real for a second. We've seen messy before. We've seen drama. We've seen call-outs. We've seen celebrities throw shade like it's a professional sport. But this feels different. This feels like someone pulled back the velvet curtain and said, "Y'all really thought this was all fake?" And suddenly, names like Diddy and Jay-Z aren't just trending. They're sitting in the center of a storm that nobody can control anymore. And here's where it gets even crazier. Because according to whispers floating around like gossip at a family reunion, this so-called Part 3 isn't just about one person. Oh no, it's about an entire system. A hidden network. A power structure that's been operating quietly, while everybody else was busy arguing on Instagram Live. Yeah, while fans were picking sides, something way bigger was allegedly happening behind the scenes. Now imagine this like a Netflix thriller mixed with a WWE backstage brawl. Because that's exactly how chaotic this situation is becoming. People are scrambling, statements are being strategically worded, and suddenly everybody's acting real careful about what they say. Because once certain doors open, you can't just close them like nothing happened. And the wildest part, some insiders are hinting that what's already out there is only half the story. Meaning if this Part 3 is real or even partially real, then what comes next could shake the industry in ways nobody is ready for. If you thought this whole situation just popped out of nowhere like a random Twitter scandal. Yeah, no, this story has been brewing for years, quietly simmering behind VIP sections, private parties, and those invite-only rooms nobody ever really talks about out loud. And somehow, every time things got close to spilling over, it all just disappeared. Like magic, or like someone with serious power kept hitting the reset button. Now enter 50 Cent, a man who doesn't just throw shade, he launches full tactical strikes with it. This isn't somebody who tiptoes around conversations. This is someone who looks at chaos and says, "Let's make it louder." And over the past few years, he's been dropping hints, jokes, side comments, things that seemed funny at first, but now they're starting to sound like warnings nobody took seriously. Because let's rewind for a second. Long before this so-called Part 3 madness started trending, there were already whispers about what really goes down behind the scenes with some of the biggest names in the game. And every time those whispers got too loud, suddenly there'd be distractions, new headlines, viral moments that pulled everyone's attention somewhere else. Almost like the internet was being played like a game of musical chairs, and sitting right in the middle of all that noise. Names like Diddy and Jay-Z, two figures who've basically built empires so massive, they don't just influence music. They influence culture, business, and even how narratives get shaped. These aren't regular celebrities. These are power players. The kind of people who don't just react to situations. They control how situations are seen. But here's where things start getting messy. Because over time, cracks began to show. Subtle at first. A lawsuit here. A rumor there. A clip that didn't quite sit right. And instead of everything staying polished and perfect, suddenly there were moments that made people go, wait, what's really going on? And once that curiosity hits the internet, oh, it spreads faster than a trending hashtag. Then came the first wave of documentaries and exposes content that claimed to peel back layers of the industry nobody wanted exposed. And while some people brushed it off like conspiracy theories wrapped in entertainment, others started connecting dots. Because when different stories start sounding a little too similar, it stops feeling random. And guess who was right there, watching it all unfold? Yeah, 50 Cent. Posting, reacting, smirking through captions like he knew something everybody else was just starting to figure out. Not saying everything directly, but saying just enough to keep people guessing. It was like he was playing chess while everybody else was stuck playing checkers with missing pieces. Now fast forward to this moment, where suddenly the phrase part 3 is everywhere. Nobody can even agree on what it officially is. Some say it's a continuation of previous exposes. Others claim it's something entirely new. And then there are those who swear it's the piece that ties everything together, the one that doesn't just tell stories. It connects them. And let's talk about the reaction, because that's where things get even more suspicious. Normally, when something fake hits the internet, people laugh it off, move on, maybe turn it into a meme. But this triggered something different. Silence from some corners, careful statements from others, and a whole lot of no comment energy that feels louder than any denial ever could. Because if there's nothing to hide, why does it feel like everybody's suddenly watching what they say? And don't even get me started on the fans. Oh, the internet has turned into a full-blown investigation unit. People are digging up old clips, resurfacing interviews, analyzing body language like they just graduated from FBI Academy overnight. Threads are getting longer, theories are getting wilder, and somehow, pieces are starting to line up in ways that are making even casual viewers raise an eyebrow. It's giving Netflix true crime meets backstage reality TV chaos. 1 minute you're scrolling for entertainment, and the next minute you're deep in a rabbit hole wondering how deep this whole thing really goes. And the deeper you go, the less simple it starts to look. Because what if this isn't just about drama? What if this is about control, influence, and who really runs the narrative behind the scenes? And that's exactly why this part 3 situation feels different. It's not just another headline. It's not just another rumor cycle. It feels like the moment where everything that's been whispered, hinted, and joked about is starting to come together in one place. And this is where everything goes from okay, this is messy, to WHAT is actually happening right now. Because the second this so-called part 3 started circulating, the internet didn't just react. It detonated. Timelines turned into war zones. Group chats started sounding like emergency meetings. And suddenly everybody had a theory, like they were auditioning for a Netflix documentary of their own. Because here's the thing. Once people think something big is being hidden, they don't just watch, they investigate. And oh, they went full detective mode. Old interviews pulled up, award show clips replayed in slow motion, random side comments from years ago suddenly treated like coded messages. It was giving Marvel-level conspiracy breakdowns, except instead of superheroes, it was industry elites and alleged secrets nobody could fully prove but everybody felt. And right in the center of this digital hurricane, the name 50 Cent kept popping up like a plot twist that refuses to sit still. Every post, every reaction, every sarcastic jab he made online started getting dissected like it was evidence in a courtroom. People were like, wait, has he been hinting at this the whole time? And honestly, the way he was moving, it didn't feel accidental. Meanwhile, mentions of Diddy and Jay-Z were trending like their names had just been thrown into the biggest group chat scandal in history. And not in a casual celebrity gossip way. More like, why is everything suddenly connecting? Type energy. Because once multiple narratives start overlapping, the internet doesn't ask questions politely, it kicks the door down and demands answers. And let's talk about the memes for a second. Because phew. The internet turned this into a full comedy show while still low-key investigating like undercover agents. You had people comparing the situation to WWE storylines, saying this felt like a scripted rivalry that somehow turned way too real. Others were like, this is literally a Kardashian-level scandal but with actual consequences. which honestly, not far off, but behind the jokes, there was tension, real tension. Because while fans were laughing and posting gifs, there was also this underlying feeling that something serious might be sitting underneath all the chaos. And that's when things started getting weird. Because instead of loud denials or dramatic clapbacks, what we got was controlled responses, carefully worded statements, strategic silence. And if you've been around long enough, you already know that kind of quiet. It's never random. It's the kind of quiet that makes people lean in closer instead of backing away. Then came the contradictions. Oh yes, the contradictions started piling up like receipts on a messy table. One narrative would say one thing, another source would say something slightly different, and suddenly people were like, hold on, this isn't adding up. And when stories stop aligning, that's when suspicion turns into obsession.it. Didn't help that random insiders started popping up online like surprise guests nobody invited, but everybody listened to anyway. Some claimed they'd seen things, others hinted at deeper layers, and while not all of it could be verified, the sheer volume of voices saying similar things, yeah, that's what made it impossible to ignore.at this point. The situation felt less like gossip and more like a slow-motion explosion. Like you're watching a building crack before it collapses, and you know something's about to happen. You just don't know exactly when. And every new post, every new clip, every new leak added fuel to a fire that was already out of control. And let's not ignore the industry reactions, because those were just as telling. Some celebrities stayed completely silent, like they suddenly forgot how social media works. Others tried to joke it off, but even those jokes felt forced. Like when someone laughs a little too hard at something that's not that funny. You know that energy? Yeah, that. And then you had a few bold voices who tried to speak on it directly, but even they seemed careful, like they were choosing their words with a microscope. Because whatever this situation is, it's clearly bigger than a simple online scandal. It's touching something deeper, something people don't usually talk about publicly. Now here's the wildest part. While all of this chaos was unfolding, the idea of Part 3 itself became almost mythical. Some people swore they'd seen clips, others said it didn't exist. And then there were those who believed it was being controlled, like certain pieces were leaking on purpose while others were being kept locked away. Which, if true, that takes this from messy to calculated real fast. Because if information is being released strategically, then someone is controlling the narrative. And if someone is controlling the narrative, then the real story might be something entirely different from what we're seeing on the surface. And that's when the mood shifted, because suddenly this wasn't just entertainment anymore. This felt like a game of power, and somebody just made a move that nobody saw coming. And just when everyone thought the chaos couldn't get any louder, that's when the aftershock hit. Not the kind you see coming either, the kind that creeps in slowly, like a realization you can't unsee once it clicks. Because by now, this whole situation wasn't just trending. It was lingering, sitting in conversations, sliding into interviews, hanging over the industry like a question nobody wanted to answer out loud. Because here's the truth nobody can dodge anymore. Once a narrative like this starts spreading, it doesn't just disappear. It mutates, it grows, it evolves into something bigger than the original story. And that's exactly what happened here. What started as this Part 3 reel quickly turned into, wait, how much of this has been happening all along? And suddenly, people weren't just watching anymore. They were re-evaluating everything. Old collaborations started looking different. Business moves felt more calculated. Even friendships? Yeah, those started getting side-eyed like a plot twist waiting to happen. Because once you plant that seed of doubt, it doesn't just stay small, it takes over the whole garden. Now let's talk about reputations. Because this is where things got shaky. When names like Diddy and Jay-Z are tied to conversations this heavy, the impact doesn't just hit social media, it ripples across the entire industry. We're talking brand deals, partnerships, affiliations, all of it suddenly sitting under a microscope. And trust me, brands don't like microscopes unless they're selling skincare. And the pressure? It started building fast. Because silence, once again, became the loudest statement in the room. No big emotional responses, no dramatic breakdowns. Just that same careful energy that made people even more suspicious. And the more controlled everything looked on the surface, the more chaotic it felt underneath. Meanwhile, 50 Cent. Oh, he was moving like someone who already knew the ending of the movie while everybody else was still watching the trailer, posting just enough to keep the fire alive, but never enough to fully reveal the whole picture. It was like he was orchestrating tension without ever stepping fully into the spotlight. And honestly, that kind of confidence doesn't come from guessing. That comes from knowing. And that's where alliances started getting weird. Because when situations like this explode, people start choosing sides even if they don't say it directly. You can see it in who speaks, who stays quiet, who distances themselves, and who suddenly starts popping up in unexpected places. It's like watching a social chessboard rearrange itself in real time. Moves being made, positions shifting, energy changing. Some people leaned into support. Subtle, quiet, but noticeable. Others, they created distance so fast you'd think they were training for a sprint. And that alone told a story. Because when things are normal, nobody runs. But when things feel uncertain, everybody starts protecting their own space. And then came the emotional fallout. Not the dramatic, crying on camera type, but the kind that shows up in tension, in tone, in the way conversations suddenly feel heavier. Because whether everything being said is true or not, the impact is real. The conversations are real. The shift in perception? Very real. Fans started splitting into camps like it was a full-blown reality show finale. Some believed everything being hinted at. Others dismissed it as overhyped chaos. And then there were those stuck in the middle, unsure what to believe but unable to ignore how strange everything felt. And honestly, that middle group might be the most powerful, because they're the ones asking the hardest questions. Now let's get into the part nobody expected. Because just when it seemed like things might slow down, a new layer started peeking through. Not a full reveal, not a clear answer, just enough to make people pause and go, wait, there's more? And that's when the tone shifted again from chaos to curiosity. Because if this whole situation is only scratching the surface, then what's underneath? And more importantly, who else is connected? That question alone sent the internet spiraling again. Because if part 3 isn't just about one story, but multiple threads weaving into something bigger, then we're not looking at a single scandal. We're looking at a network, a system, something that doesn't just involve individuals, but structures. And once you start thinking like that, there's no going back. Because now every move feels intentional. Every silence feels strategic. Every reaction feels like part of a bigger plan. And whether that's actually the case or not, the perception alone is enough to shift how people see everything. And that's the real impact here. Not just what's being said, but how it's changing the way people look at the industry itself. Because for years, the industry has thrived on mystery, on exclusivity, on the idea that there are levels to this game that most people will never see. But now, it feels like those levels are being questioned, not fully exposed, but definitely challenged. And when that happens, the power dynamic starts to wobble. And here's where it gets even more intense. Because while all of this is happening publicly, there's also the question of what's happening behind closed doors. Conversations we'll never hear, decisions being made quietly, strategies being adjusted in real time. Because you don't just sit back when something like this starts gaining traction. You respond, even if that response isn't visible, which means the real story might not even be the one we're watching. It might be the one unfolding where cameras aren't allowed. And that is what makes this feel like a season finale instead of just another episode. Because everything right now feels like it's leading somewhere. Like we're building toward a moment that hasn't happened yet but is definitely coming. And when it does, it's not going to be subtle. Because once narratives reach this level of tension, something has to give. Either the story collapses, or it explodes into something nobody can control. And if we've learned anything from how this has unfolded so far, it's that control might already be slipping. Now listen, if your jaw is still somewhere on the floor after all that, don't. worry, you're not alone. Because this right here, this isn't just drama. This is the kind of story that grabs you, shakes you, and then leaves you staring at your screen like, yeah, something is not adding up. And the craziest part, we're probably still only seeing the tip of the iceberg. So go ahead. I need you to drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Do you think this part 3 situation is real? Or is this the internet doing what it does best, turning smoke into a full-blown wildfire? And be honest, because some of y'all have been connecting dots like you're solving a final exam, and I see you. And while you're at it, don't just tap that like button, smash it like it owes you money and just tried to dodge you. I'm talking full energy, no hesitation, because if this story really is unfolding the way it feels, you're going to want to be right here when the next twist drops. And trust me, with how things are moving, that next twist might hit when nobody's ready. Make sure you subscribe, turn those notifications all the way on, and stay locked in. Because we don't just talk about what's trending, we break down what people are too scared to say out loud. No filters, no watered down takes, just raw, unfiltered reality with a little bit of chaos sprinkled on top. And remember, in a world where everything looks polished on the surface, sometimes the real story is hiding in plain sight. Stay sharp, stay questioning, and welcome to Truth Tattle.